Echo TV is a co-production of Minnesota's Emergency and Community Health Outreach Collaborative of health, safety, ethnic and nonprofit agencies, and TPT's Minnesota channel.
Hello and welcome to ECHO, Emergency and Community Health Outreach. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald, the Executive Director for ECHO. Our program this time is called Calling 911 in Emergencies, and this program is being produced in multiple languages by ECHO for your use. We appreciate you watching. We'll have a guest, but first, some background on our subject. Please watch this.
When you see flashing lights and hear sirens, there's an emergency close by, and police, fire, and ambulances may be racing to the area to help others. When you see emergency vehicles in front of you, drivers should move to an adjacent lane when passing an emergency vehicle such as an ambulance, police car, fire truck, or tow truck. If you are not able to move a lane away, reduce your speed. If you fail to move over or slow down for emergency vehicles, you could receive a ticket for breaking the law. By ignoring this law, drivers put police officers, firefighters, emergency medical workers, and tow truck drivers at risk of getting hurt while helping others. The next time you see flashing lights up ahead, remember to move over. Obeying the law could save lives. If you see a serious accident or are involved in one, call 911. That number is reserved for emergency calls whenever there is a life-threatening problem or crime. Dispatchers relay information from 911 calls to trained staff, sending them to help others during emergencies that can happen on the road, at home, at work, or elsewhere. If there is a house fire, call 911 and a fire truck will be sent to the house. 911 calls about medical emergencies help ambulances to get to the sick or injured so they get to the hospital as quickly as possible. If you see someone being attacked or a serious crime being committed, call 911 and police will be sent. 911 is for serious calls, not to find out about non-emergency information like directions to the store, find how to unlock your car, or ask when the streets will be cleared of snow. When calling 911, be ready to tell the dispatcher the information they need to send help. When the dispatcher answers, stay calm and speak slowly. Tell the dispatcher what is happening, what kind of help is needed, and where exactly the help should be sent. The dispatcher may need you to stay on the telephone and answer questions, so do not hang up until you are told to do so. Emergency responders are people who want to help you, but they need your help. When you see flashing lights on police cars, fire engines, ambulances, and tow trucks in front of your car, move over if you can, or reduce your speed. Call 911 only when you see or are involved in a life-threatening emergency on a highway, at home, at work, or anywhere. And stay on the line and answer questions from the 911 dispatcher. Together, we can work to help others in an emergency.
You're watching ECHO. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Our topic is calling 911 in an emergency. And joining us to talk about this issue is Lieutenant Mark Peterson from the Minnesota State Patrol. Thank you very much for joining us on ECHO.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it. As you know, ECHO is a program bringing health and safety information to many audiences and in multiple languages. This program in English, though, is going to focus on calling 911, proper use, and then we'll also touch on some traffic laws. So we really appreciate your time. But it's important, 911 shouldn't be taken for granted. It's been around for a long time, but people seem to misuse it. Talk about that.
They do. We want to make sure that people, be they visitors, immigrants, refugees, new Americans, when they come here, understand that 911 is an emergency system. And a lot of people just don't even have that in possibly places where they came from. So that if they're driving down the road and they see a crash or an accident or a life-threatening situation, they know to call 911. And the other thing we also want them to be aware of, we want them to know about the move over law that we have, and we're going to get into greater detail that here coming up.
Well, let's start with the proper use of 911 because about 30% of the calls are actually improper calls to 911. But let's start with what are the proper uses for 911?
You know, obviously, if you want to report a crime, you possibly may be witnessing one, maybe someone is breaking into your house. If you see a fire, hopefully it's not your own home, but maybe you see neighbors or something on the street, you want to report that. If you have a medical emergency, obviously a member of your family or something you witness on the street, some of those are situations. But another thing we want to do here is educate children. Obviously, a lot of those calls you were talking about, those third that happen for probably the wrong reasons, are young adults who grab that phone, dial 911 for the wrong reason.
Yeah, it's an accident. They may have learned about it and they're curious, or maybe they're looking for help from somebody other than the parents or the babysitter who's at home and they dial 911.
You know, and it could be an innocent mistake, and with that, we don't want them to do it, so they tie up that system. But in the same vein, we want to make sure that they understand the time that they should use 911.
Well, we also have a 411 directory assistance and a 311. So it's important that folks know that 911 is emergency only, and so that's the value in teaching the differences between them.
Oh, absolutely. And, and then we're going to talk about those reasons not to call 911. You know, if you need directions to a store, or you're lost, or, maybe you run into somebody like me and you want to complain about that parking ticket or that citation, this is not the forum to do that. There are different areas. And again, we don't want to tie that up unnecessarily. The other thing we want to touch on, if you accidentally call 911, don't hang up and pretend like it didn't happen, because those dispatchers are trained to respond to that. So they'll call you back. So if you do that accidentally, stay on the phone or call them back and let them know, hey, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Everything's okay here.
Oh, so resources would be sent to the house even if I accidentally called 911 and then hung up?
That's true, because a lot of times those are there can be situations where someone may be involved in an altercation, a domestic situation.
That's true. Yeah.
And as a result of that, someone may take that phone away from them and hang it up. And we're going to make sure that they're okay. And we're going to err on the side of caution. So many times, resources would be dispatched.
All right, so call back if you make a mistake, and
Absolutely.
Call 911, let them know it was a mistake. What if I don't speak English and I call 911? Are most of the dispatchers, I'm assuming, their primary language is English, but what if I don't speak English, or my English isn't as good as, enough to get information across? Can I get some help?
You bet. Many of our dispatchers are bilingual and do speak languages other than English. But when you call, also tell the dispatcher that. Tell them the language that you speak, possibly that you don't speak English. And again, I'm going to go back to this, don't hang up. If you feel frustrated, give that dispatcher some time to get some help to address the issue that you have, and be that, an interpreter. Possibly they can use a three-way call to get someone who can speak a language, so we can get the message to get the help you need.
Well, you probably have the primary languages covered in Minnesota, like Spanish, probably Hmong, I would imagine, here. But then, there's dozens of languages here, so you have interpreters on call?
What we have is a language line that we can utilize that will address all of those needs. The common ones we may be able to address with some of the dispatchers who are multilingual. But in that same vein, for the ones that they do not have, there are resources that they can use. Additionally, that people should know is when you call, you're not required to give your name. You can do it anonymously. But all that being said, those are for those situations that you see that you may not want to get involved in. But the other thing you remember here is, if you're a victim, you can't address a crime without a victim.
There's a temptation when you're calling 911, you're feeling a sense of panic, especially if you're witnessing a crime, a house fire. I've been involved in a traffic accident. It's understandable to feel scared, but what's the best way to handle that call?
What you have to do is you have to be calm. You have to be relaxed. And many times when you're in a high-stress situation, that can be quite difficult, problematic, if you will. So you've got to slow down your speech pattern and realize that you want to get the message over. So when you call that dispatcher, you want to tell them, what are you calling for? I see got a fire. I have a medical emergency. Someone is trying to break into my home. You want to get the message out, again, calmly, slowly, so they understand you and can address that situation. The dispatcher is also going to need to know where you are, what your location is, where you're calling from. Obviously, from your home address.
You could draw a blank, though, in that situation. I mean, that's happened to me before. Especially if you're involved in an accident, you just don't know.
You don't. And many times the dispatchers realize that, so they'll try and calm you down and say, let me help you here. Do you know the address? No. Are you by a couple streets that you can think of? Is there a landmark that we can talk about, that you can see, that we can draw reference to, again, to send help to address whatever your emergency may be? And if you have a medical emergency, a lot of times the dispatcher may ask more questions. And they're not trying to be invasive or get into your life here. They're trying to get an understanding of what's wrong. So when those ambulance workers or firefighters come, they can be giving them that information before they get to your home or location to better address your need and help you.
Okay, and what about in some situations, medical emergencies, you need help right away, I mean faster even than the police or fire or emergency personnel can maybe get there. Is there a time when I might be asked to provide some help in that situation, and could I get some help on the phone line from a dispatcher?
Well, that's a great question. Yes, many times that happens. Sometimes.
I mean, I'm thinking of a birth of a child, for instance, and we just can't wait any longer.
Oh,
what do I do?
That happens. That happens, and we will, and the dispatchers will do their best to walk you through that. Or someone may be having a cardiac arrest, a heart attack, if you will, and talk about how you can give CPR or possibly mouth-to-mouth to walk you through it as best as they can. If they call in and there's a medical emergency and they're going, this person isn't breathing, what do I do? Mm-hmm. So after they get the ambulance coming, they may walk you through some of those situations. Or another one is possibly people have an airway pinched or something gets dislodged lodged in their throat, helping them work through those.
Okay. And when should I hang up? Should I wait until once police arrives or once fire arrives? Is that when I hang up, or do I wait until I'm told, now you can hang up?
You know what? That's the best advice. Let that dispatcher do their work, get all the information, make sure there's help on the way, and they will tell you when it's okay to hang up. So I would stay on the line until that point in time.
Let's talk about uses of a home phone or a landline, if you will, versus the cell phone. I mean, more and more people are using cell phones now, and does that affect at all the use of 911?
911 is getting utilized a lot more. Cell phones, obviously, as we're all aware, it's just a booming industry, and everyone has one. Yeah. So there are more 911 calls coming in. And another sidebar to that is also, it doesn't cost anything. It's free. So when you dial 911, no money out of your pocket, be that from your phone at home, obviously, but that cell phone, you're not going to get charged for that because that's meant to be free, because we don't want you to be reserved about making that call.
Do you know where I'm at when I call 911 from my cell phone?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. A lot of times some of the newer phones have a feature on it that would provide that opportunity if you want to have that activated. And sometimes that helps us find you. If someone is having a medical emergency, again, possibly a heart attack or a reaction, and they're passing out as they're giving that information, this helps us find them.
Do all the calls to 911 go to my local police station, or do they end up somewhere else, or to the nearest police station where I happen to be, or how does that work exactly?
Most of the time, if you're calling off a landline, your house phone, many times that'll go to your local police department, or if you're living in a larger city, or many times a county if they'll have a dispatch center. The vast majority of cellular 911 calls go to the state patrol, and then we would relay those calls as we see fit. Obviously, if you're on your cell phone, you call from your backyard, you want to get someone to your home, we would probably relay that to the city in which you live or the county if there isn't one.
Another quick question on 911, because I feel a little bit guilty about doing this, but down the highway, I see the tire in the middle of the road, it could be an accident, or maybe I saw an accident, and I'm just thinking, did everybody on this highway just call 911 or not? Should I call or not?
I would always err on the side of calling. Okay. If you see obviously
like road rage, I see something going down or something,
Good question. If you see some of that aggressive driving, some of that going on, call in and let us know. We aren't always in a position to help and respond to that, but if we are close, we will, and then address that situation, because a lot of times those are the ones we want to take off the road as well. In that emergency, if you see that tire, let us know.
Let's talk about the Move Over law. Move Over law was designed really to help folks like you who are on the side of the road trying to help others. But describe it for us so we have a better idea of just exactly what it means.
The Move Over law means that when you see that emergency vehicle down the road, be it a trooper, deputy, municipal officer, firefighter, ambulance, tow truck, those red lights, sometimes red and blue lights going on the shoulder on your right or left, you got to do something. So what that means is, we want you to slow down, or many times move a lane away. And that's why we always say move over, because we want you to realize that we're doing something up there. That's our work zone. That's where we are helping someone or addressing a traffic issue many times. And so many times people don't do that.
Yeah, I don't think to move over, because I guess what's going on in my mind is you have your own lane because you're on the shoulder, and I'm in my own lane and we're okay. But you're saying, no, you need a lane between your work on the side of the road and where I'm at on the highway.
We do, and what people have to understand is that's the law. So if you don't do it, you could run into somebody like me who might say, you didn't do that, and you can get a citation for that.
How much is that citation?
Oh, that's going to be very, very expensive. So you have to remember that. And we had that law. That law came about because we're getting a lot of people hit on the side of the road.
Yeah.
You know, it came about, actually, it's called the Ted Foss Law, was a trooper in 1990 that was killed as a result of a vehicle coming onto the shoulder of the road. Within our agency, I have a lot of people who get hit on a regular basis, but this isn't just for us. This is all the emergency workers.
Sure.
Ambulance, firefighters, ambulance, firefighters, tow drivers, things of that nature that are out doing their job.
So move over and slow down.
Move over and slow down.
And the difference between that and what if I see the red lights behind me? That's a yield law. What about that?
That's a yield law, which means I'm going someplace in a hurry. You got to get out of my way.
And you want me to move over or stay put?
I want you to move. I don't want you to stay put. I want you to move ideally to the right, but maybe if you're in the left lane, you've got shoulder there, you can move to the left.
Okay.
But again, you want to get out of my way. The other thing is a lot of people sometimes when they see those red lights, panic.
Yeah.
They panic and they go, oh,
I might
red
be going
lights,
too fast.
I'm doing something wrong. And I'm going, you know what, just get out of the way. And if I'm wanting to stop you, and I'm sure that never happens.
Right, of course not.
But if I wanted to stop you, I'll stay with you all the way over. But if I'm going to go by, you want to let me. Don't lock up your brakes. Don't stop quickly. Just do things gradually and remain calm.
So again, it's keep your cool, pay attention, look in your mirrors, move over, slow down, get out of the way, whether it's the move over law in front or if you're a yield law from behind.
Absolutely.
One more question. You know, we're trying to take a moment to thank our police, fire, emergency workers, medical workers by recruiting some more into the field. And I know diversity is an issue because we're always looking for new faces to work in law enforcement and the other helping fields. Tell us about that.
Oh, absolutely. We want to work with all the different communities that are in Minnesota. And as a result of that, we want to bring people that those communities are comfortable with and working. So,
like the bilingual individuals, officers.
Absolutely.
Sure.
We have a number that help us in so many ways. So if you're interested in this, contact your local police department, county sheriff's department, or the Minnesota State Patrol, and we will work with you to see if we can bring you into this family so that you can work with us and work with your community to make this a better place.
Same goes for fire, medical workers as well.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Mark, thank you so much for your information. You've been wonderful.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
We've talked about a lot of things, but really we want you to remember 3 key messages right now. The first one is when you see flashing lights on police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, or tow trucks in front of you, move over a lane and reduce your speed. Number 2, call 911 only when you see or are involved in an emergency situation. And finally, when calling 911, stay calm. Be ready to tell the dispatcher the type of emergency and your location, and do not hang up. My thanks again to my guest, Lieutenant Mark Peterson from the Minnesota State Patrol. It's been a pleasure having you on the Calling 911 and Emergency Echo program. And thanks to our viewers for watching. If you'd like more information about this program or other Echo television programs, please check us out on our website, www.echominnesota.org. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.
Echo TV is a co-production of Minnesota's Emergency and Community Health Outreach Collaborative of health, safety, ethnic and nonprofit agencies, and TPT's Minnesota channel.